Welcome back, my friends, to another Minecraft update video. This is Snapshot 21w05a, and as you can see, there's a lot of things added in this snapshot. These are all related to the Lush Caves biome, which will be coming at some point in the future. There is no update to the world generation, there are no new biomes added in this update, but all of the items that will be used for the Lush Caves have been added, and we're going to check them all out. So first of all, we're going to check out the azalea and the flowering azalea. I keep referring to these as azalea trees because look below them, they've got little trunks. They're like miniature bonsai trees. But this is pretty much all they do. They just exist. They're going to be great for putting in your gardens. And there also doesn't appear to be much of a link between the two, as this one doesn't grow into the flowering type and you can't bone meal it. Now these could quite possibly be part of actual azalea trees, kind of like, you know, regular Minecraft trees, because there are also azalea leaves and flowering azalea leaves. Again, these seem to be completely separate. These don't then grow into the flowering type, and if we press F3 and look at the technical details of the block, not only can you see that it works like regular leaves with the distance from a log, it also has the azalea log replaceable. So that means at some point we're going to see the azalea log added. Although I will point out, when we first saw this at Minecraft Live, this basically looked like a regular log, so I'm not actually sure if there is going to be an azalea log added to the game. So another new block added is the cave vine, and the way that you get a cave vine is actually by placing a glowberry on the underside of the block. It doesn't grow in any other direction, and if you click on it again, you'll be able to grow this cave vine down further, and it looks pretty awesome, right? You can also grow it with bone meal, and when you do that, that's where you get these glowberries that I'm holding from, right? You can also then right click again to harvest. So here's your glowberry farm. Just hold down right click with some bone meal and you'll create tons of the stuff. And these glowberries, they do actually glow. These are emitting light right now. So another new light source, and if we press F3, we can see that it gives off a light level of 14. So not only a new light source, but a new food source as well. And you'll see that it just gives us one hunger haunch for each glowberry that we consume. Now I think there is a missed opportunity here to make the player glow when they eat it. That would be fantastic, right? Anyway, the other animal that really likes these foods is the fox. The fox will happily consume some of these glowberries. Next up we have the Dripleaf plant, and this comes with two different types. I must say though, I'm not a big fan of how these look inside of the inventory. They're like 3D models that are a bit over detailed. Now both of these can be placed down in water, but it's the small drip leaf that actually requires water or clay to be placed. You can see over here on the grass we can put down the big ones but not the small ones. They can also be fully immersed and waterlogged in water, so you can use these entirely underwater and they actually retain some of their functionality. So if I go and stand on top of this thing, you can see that the surface changes. So it is the small drip leaf that you can grow into a big drip leaf by bone mealing it. You can also grow these further by bone mealing the big leaf at the top. As you've already seen, that has some special properties. If I go and stand on this thing, you'll see that its status changes and then we fall through. And after a short amount of time, this is going to pop back. There it goes. And also the hitbox of this means that you can't go through it, right? You actually collide with this thing. So another thing you can do is hold down shift, which I'm doing right now. And as you can see, it's now ignoring the fact that I'm standing on this thing, but then when I let go, it'll do its thing again. So this feature was added with parkour in mind, so that players could create some unique parkour courses, but I think being able to hold down shift just, you know, kind of makes it like a regular block. You just wait on it until you're ready to make your next jump. So another unique property of this big drip leaf is that you can throw a projectile at it and the projectile will break the plant. You can also just break it with your fist, and it will drop as well. However, things are different for the small drip leaf. If I break it, you see nothing dropped. For that one, you have to use shears, and when you use shears, you get yourself the small drip leaf plant. And last of all, the wandering trader, who is wandering away from me. This guy has the possibility to sell the small drip leaf plant. And there it is, I finally found one. So 1 emerald for 2 of those small drip leaves. And now I've got to get rid of all of these guys. Now the next block, or blocks, is one that you might not have even noticed because it blends in so well with the grass. That is the moss block. Let's just grab a bunch of these. You can craft them like that, like you do wall and carpets, into moss carpet. And then you're free to place this stuff down. And so that's about it. It's a very straightforward block. The texture is really similar to grass, but of course it gives you a little more variation, and this is going to be super useful when doing your greenery builds. And so of all the things seen here, there are just 3 items left. That's right, 3. We have hanging roots, the Spore Blossom, and then rooted dirt. So this is like just another variation of dirt. I don't believe it has a crafting recipe, and we don't know how these things generate, so there really isn't too much to say about them other than that they hang from the ceiling. It's not possible to place these on the ground, so I can't put the Spore Blossom down here, and the same for the hanging roots. And the thing about the Spore Blossom is it drops particle effects, which is a nice feature. If you want to have some of those controlled inside of your base, you've now got an option to do that with the Spore Blossom. So those were the shiny new things, and there are changes as well, so don't go anywhere just yet. And also, last video, over 50% of you watching were not subscribed. So if you like this content, you want to keep up to date, you know what to do. Now, let's talk about what has changed with powdered snow. There are some really interesting changes here. First of all, I've got the bow, and I'm going to shoot through the powdered snow, and I might accidentally hit that fox. The arrows on the ground are not on fire, so I'm going to shoot a couple like that, shoot in the same spot through the snow, and you can see the snow is actually putting the fire out. Did it not do it that time? It's not doing it all of a sudden. Maybe I'm standing too close to it. It would seem that this is kind of buggy. Sometimes it puts out the fire, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe they need to work on that one a little bit more. Now here's one I'm pretty sure was suggested by the Minecraft community. We have a skeleton here, and it's going to sink down in there and it's going to freeze, and when it's finished freezing it's going to turn into a stray. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and place a couple of pistons here, because guess what, these can now push and pull the powdered snow block. And not only that, it can push and pull rows of them, so it's not like it can only do one at a time and it might pop off. Anyway, let's see how that skeleton is doing. Oh, not yet, you need some more time. I have to do this again because it made a really cool sound effect when it converted. There we go. That was pretty cool. The stray is now taking freezing damage. I can't help but feel this mob should be immune to that type of damage. Anyway, the one last change here is related to the fox mob. It can now walk on top of powdered snow. As you can see, it doesn't sink through like other mobs would. And it's doing some typical Minecraft dancing. This is completely normal for a new snapshot. So there is a change to the drowned as well. In its loot table, it's no longer going to drop golden ingots. It's now going to drop copper. As you can see right here, I'm using a cheaty looting sword though, but it does show you the max that they're able to drop when you kill them is 1 copper ingot. There are also big changes to copper in this update. I'm just going to start placing down some blocks and we might get lucky and see something change. And that's because this is now tied to the random tick speed of a world. And I've turned mine up and my CPU is making a lot of noise. And as I place down more of these, you're going to see more of them start to change. In fact, let's go ahead and just potentially crash my computer right now. Let's see what it does with that. There you go. You can see it's now tied to the random ticks in a world. So here we have the stone cutter, which can now cut copper as well. You're going to notice there's also some name changes here. We got copper block, exposed copper block, weathered copper block, and oxidized copper. Now if we go over here and chuck this in there, you'll see that it makes the different types, including the cut copper. You can also put the cut types into here to create the stairs and the slabs, and you can also put waxed types into the stone cutter to make the other variations. So we have some additions to the Sculk sensor as well, and its ability not only to detect game events but to give out a redstone signal when you use a comparator. So all of these new additions are related to the signal strength that it gives out when it detects something. So at signal strength 6 we have the detection of a movement of a minecart, the ringing of a bell, and what is described as a block change. It gives the example of right clicking on a cake to eat it. You can see it activates it. The only other thing that I could find was putting a book into a lectern. It'd be nice if the list of things it could detect were bigger here. For signal strength 7 you can finish drinking and that activates it. Also at level 7 is priming the fuse, like activating TNT. This also counts for when a creeper gets activated as well. So for signal strength 8 it says mob interact is specific mob interaction events that cause vibrations, but it doesn't give any examples. I tried a few things and I thought a wandering trader trading with it would be a good bet, but this doesn't set it off. At level 9 it will detect using shears, like on a sheep. Equipping armor is another one. And then you have the Ravager Roar, but I'm not going to summon one in and wait for it to make the roaring sound. Placing an entity will give off Signal Strength 12. And an entity being killed will give off Signal Strength 13. So level 15 is Shulker Open and level 14 is Shulker Close. This works with the Shulker box. Let's now see if it means the Shulker mob as well. Yes, it does. It closed and then it opened, yes. So it works with both the box and the Shulker mob. Now block change and mob interact were a little confusing because they didn't really give enough examples. So I'm going to put the list on your screen as a reference and you can also see the description from Minecraft.net. And speaking of Minecraft.net, there are tons of bug fixes here and a lot of them relate to the Sculk sensors. And some of them are quite interesting. There's really just too many to list though. They're basically going over many of the things that have been sort of overlooked as this feature's been added. So one of the things that it can detect is the filling up of a cauldron, and I think that that counts as a block event. Also, if an Enderman's in the area and it picks up or places down a block, it'll be treated just like the player doing the same thing. Now, last video we talked about a bug report that didn't seem fixed, where you have a load of entities in a small space together and then they grow from babies into adults and they get pushed into the blocks around them. Well, what you're seeing here is really odd. You can see my game all of a sudden struggles to deal with what's going on here. So a quick relog and then everything goes back to normal and you can see all the babies growing into adults, they survived. Now this time I pushed them out so they're all not staying in the same spot, and when we summon in the babies the game's going to go funky again, but they are being spread out. And then when we log back in, they grow into adults and everything is fine. So that appears to be fixed, but there is this strange lag that occurs in that process. And last of all, there are a few bug reports relating to mobs, specifically baby mobs that get caught in water streams or have like a solid block above their head and they're taking damage where there shouldn't be. So just some consistencies fixed with mobs taking damage. As you saw, there were lots of bug fixes, but I just picked out the most important ones. A lot of these are just related to things that they're adding and changing snapshot to snapshot. So when the big changes come, we'll try and pick them out from the bug tracker report. But anyway, that's it from me. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. Thank you as always, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.